Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72, Modern Philosophy, and this is week 11. We are doing Heidegger, this essay this week and next week, the last week, next week, week 12. We are doing Heidegger, the origin of the work of art. But remember that we started the semester with the theme of the class is the self, the other, and the world. And we did write Descartes, Leibniz. We started actually with a few pages from Antonio Gramsci. Then we did also the exercise with the pipe. This is not a pipe, the painting by René Magritte, and then we moved into Spinoza, Nietzsche, and that was part two of the class, and then part three, which is now we are still doing. We saw Kierkegaard, then Sartre, and now Heidegger. Okay, Heidegger, a philosopher, one of the most important philosophers, though controversial, over the 20th century, perhaps the most important in some ways. But in any case, I can, I just want to highlight a few points from this difficult essay. I mean, difficult because of the typical density also of Heidegger's language. So I try my best, to tell you a few important things that you may want to focus on. And we are doing actually this essay in divided into 2 weeks. So from today, for today I ask you to read from page 1 to page 23, and then next time the second half, 23 to 56, right? So the journal entry is a discussion board suggestion for today would be, what does it mean to say that the world walls, right? That this strange statement, a sentence that we find in at one point in Heidegger, right? I will show that in a moment, and then next time, you continue with that and say more about, something that strikes you from this, about this essay, great essay, although difficult. Remember also that tomorrow we will have, last week we were not successful. For some reason there was a technical problem with the Zoom meeting that we were trying to have. So I have rescheduled that meeting for tomorrow, Sunday at again 11 a.m. Okay, let's hope that tomorrow there won't be any problem. But I have had, since last Sunday, I have had then a few meetings with other classes, and it worked well. Okay. So, in any case, the origin of the work of art. One thing that you want to keep in mind to begin with is that, of course, the essay is also write about this, and fundamentally so, write about this distinction. Again, I may be simplifying here, but trying to clarify some of the flesh out and clarify some of the most important points. So one of the main distinctions is precisely that between the thing, the mere thing, the equipment. We find that the equipment, the shoes, the shoes that we use in the illustration by Heidegger, anything of a utility, any useful things that we use, and we also use them up, because of wear and tear, and then we need to replace them, and so on and so forth, the things that we use, the mere things, or anything, things of that nature, the stone, whatever, and things that are produced by us, so that's basically the idea. So this thing, the mere thing, and the thingness or thingliness in your translation, the thingness, what makes a thing, and the work of art, which is also a thing, but the shoes, the peasant shoes, and the painting by Van Gogh, of the peasant shoes that Van Gogh paints repeatedly, and that Heidegger uses this wonderful illustration, or the pipe. Go back to the original, right? At the beginning of this semester, right? We had that exercise with that wonderful, important painting by René Magritte. This is not a pipe. The pipe, right? The pipe in its usefulness, in its utility. The pipe that we smoke. I mean, those who smoke pipes, or the pipe and the thing, therefore the object in its material existence and so on, and the painting of the pipe, the image, the idea of the pipe as well, but also in now moving from Magritte to Heidegger specifically the question of the artwork, the work of art, right? What is the difference and how ultimately, let me put it this way, in a kind of a Heideggerian language, the idea that there is a shining in art, in the work of art, whereby reality precisely becomes more visible in its perhaps essential nature, right, where reality precisely shines more or most, perhaps. Okay, so in any case, I mean, I read a few lines with you, and then there are, of course, the most important moments we will find between today and next week, and certainly in addition to the distinction between the thing as a mere thing and the work of art, there is then that wonderful, right, moment when Heidegger goes into the relationship between earth and the world, right? The earth and the world, right? The earth, which is there to begin with, the world, which is made, and also the question of concealment and unconcealment. I'll show you also the word aletheia. I will show you that in the text, which is the Greek word that we usually translate with truth, right? But Heidegger says, what is this truth? It is, this is a very important moment in Heidegger throughout his, long engagement with philosophy and the history of philosophy. Aletheia as the unconcealment, what comes out of concealment. Okay, so we'll speak more about that. In any case, at the beginning of this essay, again, I don't want to be too long, also because last time I had a problem with YouTube, actually, that at one point I was cut off, interrupted. I don't know why. They said there was no more space, but in any case, let's hope that this doesn't happen today. So, but I probably won't have much time. So the idea, if Heidegger begins with this, and he wrote so much about art and about poetry, language and poetry especially, and before that, I mean, one of the most important, if maybe the most important, the most famous also book by Heidegger is Being and Time, and then gradually then he started writing increasingly on the question of language and poetry and art and so on. Okay, so in any case, he says origin, that's the outset of the essay, means here that from where and through which a thing is what it is and how it is. Okay, so already you get a sense of Heidegger's language. Okay, the way in which that's the origin, right? A kind of, therefore, I mean, going back to the source of something, but also, the unfolding of something, right? That from where and through which a thing is what it is and how it is. I put the word individuation, I believe, in the syllabus for as a keyword for this class. For today, this is the individuating process, to individuate, whereby a thing becomes the thing that it is. If you remember when we did, especially, I mean, we spoke about this with already the painting by Magritte, this. This is not a pipe. What is this? This, and then we saw thisness. Remember thisness, right? The condition of being this. We saw thisness also when we did Leibniz, for example. Okay. So in any case, that's the idea. Individuation, the process whereby something comes to be the something that it is. That's what the thing, the origin, okay, that Heidegger is speaking about is, and he says the origin of something is precisely the source of its nature, right? So we can, and you can think about the difference between the source of something and then what something is, right? Again, what is the source, right, and so on and so forth. Okay, then art, the artist, he says, is the origin of the work. The work is the origin of the artist. Very interesting, right? I mean, there is this kind of mutual relationship and mutual cancellation in a sense, right? The artist is the work is the artist, and then we will see that the artist, in a sense, similarly to what we saw in Nietzsche. If you recall, in essay 1 of on the genealogy of morality, right, the doer, the author, the subject, the doer is only, an afterthought. Nietzsche said, right? The action, the deed is everything becoming, and so on and so forth. If you recall, that was an important moment in Nietzsche that I called attention to, right, when he says there is no substratum, right? There is no being beyond, behind, becoming, and so on. Same idea, in a sense, the artist disappears as well here. And Heidegger continues, artist and work are each in themselves and in their reciprocal relation on account of a third thing. So neither the artist per se nor the work, but there is this third neutral kind of element, okay, which is prior to both, on account, that is, of that from which both artist and artwork take their names on account of art. Okay, there is this kind of a pre-existing moment or ground, right? Ground, which in itself is not grounded on anything. It is the from which then that grounds, right? The ground that provides the foundation for both the artist and the work of art. Okay, so this third something, this neither the artist nor the work of art, this neutral moment, this ontological kind of foundation. We spoke about the word ontology. We spoke at the beginning of this class about metaphysics, right? The science, right? If you will, the study of the essence of reality, not of reality simply, in an unqualified way, the essence of reality, as Plato would say, what in reality is really real, right? I mean, this ontological ground, which is very problematic, certainly Heidegger is one of the most important problems in Heidegger's thought, okay, but it is there that something happens, that something, that whereby the process of individuation can start. I mean, it is the source, right, from which then there is an unfolding, but it is, again, there is no separation between one and the other. It is like the river. He speaks of that in another book, in another lecture he gives, the question of the river, the source of the river and the river that we see, what is the difference, and so on and so forth, okay? So, but remember this, there is this third something which grounds, so to speak, which provides, right, the foundation, so to speak, for both the artist and the artwork, okay, that are in this kind of reciprocal mutual relation of identity, right, and difference, okay? So then he says, as the artist is the origin of the work in a necessarily different way from the way The work is the origin of the artist. What makes what, right? And so it is in yet another way, quite certainly, the art is the origin of both artist and work. I leave that to you to think about what this means. Art, right? Which grounds, which is the origin of both the work of art and the artist, right? I mean, so what is this art, this third something? He will go into that, right? And so the question, the next page, um, this is now page 2, right? He says, the question of the origin of the artwork turns into the question of right, the nature of art. What is the nature of this art which precedes, so to speak, both the artist and the artwork, which is the source of the art and the artwork? What is its nature? And so on, so he says, then at one point it seems that we are going in move in a circle, which is actually the case very often with Heidegger. That's what happens. We move in a circle and everything becomes confusing. So don't be, discouraged if you find this kind of going in a circle in this confusion. At one point there is usually there is then an opening in Heidegger whereby we understand what he's doing. Okay, so but in any case, he says toward the end of page, the bottom of page 2, speaking about the circle and so on, going in a circle, in order to discover the nature of art that really holds sway in the work, let's approach the actual work and ask it what and how it is. Okay, so then he continues the next page. Every work, right? Anything has a thingly, this thingly character. What would they be without it? It is a thing, right? So he speaks about the thingness or thingliness in your version. They use both words of in the artwork, right? And says something over and above its thingliness. He speaks about that, and I say, right? I put a note for you here. I say this is what is important, maybe. And so, in any case, he speaks about the artistic nature. Okay, so whatever is brought together and the conjunction, right? So then he speaks about the structure, the substructure of the thing. And then there is a section starting on the next page. This is now page 4. The section is called The Thing and the Work. Okay, so I read a few lines. What in truth is a thing insofar as it is a thing? What is a thing, really? When we ask this question, we wish to know the thingliness, the thing being the thingness, right, of the thing. What makes a thing, right? And the point is to learn the thingliness or the thingness, the condition of being a thing of the thing. To this end, we must become acquainted with the sphere within which are to be found all those beings which we have long called things. Again, we can read all this together. It is very evocative, but and much is our also engagement with the text at the level of interpretation, right? So then he speaks about Kant and the thing in itself, right? And what is a thing? And he says on the same page 4, in general, right? Thing in quotes, right, applies to anything that is not simply nothing, right? The difference between thing, anything, something, and no thing, nothing, right? Usually that's, he says, the way we understand thing. There is something there, there is a thing, it's The opposite would be to say that there is nothing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and then on page 5, it is the things of nature and usage that are normally both nature, like the stone, right, the tree, whatever it's a thing, right, and also usage, utility, things that we make, right, that we, made through human, right, labor, work, and so on, that are normally called things. Then he goes into the Latin, right, res is a thing, of course, being, right, and he speaks of the importance of interpreting this, the interpretations, the various interpretations of, and this time we have, that's page 5, the thingness, right, of the thing. Think about this and what you can make. I mean, think about also Descartes, right, when he speaks about. Right, I am, he says at one point in Meditation 2, a thinking thing. A thing which thinks, right? And remember that, again, I don't know if, I don't remember myself if I say, usually I do say, but when we spoke about the dualism in Descartes, the thinking substance, right, mind slash soul, and the extended substance extended in space, right? Material, physical substance, right? Occupying space, right? I mean, the Latin is res, res. You find this word at the top of page 5 in Heidegger, res, 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 thing, being, right? So res cogitans, cogito, I think, cogitans, thinking, res cogitans, thinking substance, thinking thing, right? And extended substance would be res extensa, extended thing, right? A thing taking up space. Okay, so in any case, that's what we see here, and of course, then he gives three interpretations. I numbered them for you. The idea of the thing, the way in which the thing has been interpreted. I don't want to go into all that now, but you find some Greek words also here that are important. For example, at the bottom of page 5, you find this word to, which is the article in Greek, upokeimenon, which is the word for subject, right? Fundamentally, the subject in the literal sense of the word, right? Subject, ject, to be thrown, like inject, project, right? Reject, right? To be thrown, and sub, under, sub, sub, under, as the ground. That's what upokeimenon is in Greek. The thing was its ground and was always there. The ground, right? Again, this ontological thing, right? The ground, the foundation, the source, and so the origin, and so on and so forth. Okay? So then he speaks about these things, and then you see expressions that I have highlighted. I can go into that, very important in Heidegger. When you see on page, right, you see on page 6 the expression highlighted by me, the being of beings. There would be so much to say about that, but to be quick and very sketchy and very simplistic, right? I mean, think about the difference between a being. At times it's written in, the works by Heidegger with a capital B. Being as such, let's say pure being. What is being? Anything. It's not anything, but it is the fact, if you will, that it is. That there is being as such, and then beings in the plural, usually with a small lowercase b, things, right? Like this cell phone that I'm using right now, this table right there, the chair, and so on. All of them are beings, me, myself, the tree outside, the building, and so on and so forth. But what is the being of beings, whereby all these things, all these beings are? Okay, so I hope that I made that clear. Okay, he makes a distinction between a being and beings, and he says ultimately that very often when we speak about being, right, B-I-N-G, being, we actually speak about the being of beings, the being of this chair, the being of this table, and so on and so forth, okay? And that's a problem. For I can't go into that, but that's one of the most important problems that it is the problem for Heidegger in Western metaphysics, okay? The confusion between being and the being of beings. Okay, so in any case, read this. I hope that what I say gives you a sense, a key somehow to the potential reading of this difficult text. Again, I numbered the different interpretations, three of the thing, but and then you also had this idea of the concept of right the thing that I also put because in another translation is given, this is on page 8, as the thing concept, right? I mean, or rather, yes, I mean the thing dash concept, right? Again, the idea, the image, and so on and so forth. Many ways in which we can approach the thing in its material existence, if you will, in its ideal existence, and so on and so forth. Okay, in the sense he goes into the difference, very important, of and read those highlighted sections of matter and form, and you have also the Greek words there in parentheses, and then the appearance, the word appearance, eidos, the Greek word in parentheses, which is also idea, right? So in any case, and then at the bottom of page 8, I read this couple of lines. This concept of the thing, this thing concept, this eidos, this idea, the concept, right, puts us in a position to answer the question of the thingly character, if you will, in the artwork, right? Because in the artwork there is also something thingly. Remember, the pipe is not there in Magritte's painting. The pipe we saw is nowhere to be found, and yet there is a thingly character in the artwork itself, the painting, for example, itself, and so on and so forth. What is thingly in the work is obviously the matter of which it consists, the material, right? Okay, so he goes into this matter form distinction, and of course then there is a preeminence, more importance, if you will, of the form. He says that at one point, then he goes into the question of utility, and then it is on page 10 that he brings up this example of the shoe, equipment, things that we use, the shoes we wear, right? The shoe, a piece of equipment, for example, the shoe, right? When finished, rests in itself like the mere thing. And then a few lines below, the artwork, however, through its self-sufficient presence, right? It is not right to be used the way shoes are, and so on. Resembles rather the mere thing which has taken shape by itself and is never forced into being. So then he says the piece of equipment is half thing, since it is characterized by thingliness. Okay, so in any case, don't worry too much about this, but I hope that some, that you can gather some sense, some meaning from this. Then he goes into the question of matter and form in the Middle Ages, and he speaks again about this mere things, and then he sums up at the bottom of page 11 these three ways, three modes of interpreting, right, the thing. And then let me skip, because it's already, wow, it's already 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes already. And so I want to go to page 13. First of all, when he introduces the painting by Van Gogh, right? He says, we will take an example, right? As an example, an everyday piece of equipment, a pair of peasant shoes, right? And then a few lines below, we will take a well-known painting by Van Gogh, who painted such shoes several times. And then he speaks about what holds everything together in the thing, the thingness of the thing. So, and he asks the question about the equipment and the equipmentality of the equipment, what makes an equipment, and this equipmentality, right? The equipment character of the equipment is its utility, right? We use the equipment, right? The umbrella for the rain, the shoes, and so on and so forth, okay? Then on page 14, and we don't use the artwork in the same way, right? So, I mean, this is simplistic, but basically that's what it is to a degree, at least for now. So on page then 14, because I want to get to page 23 quickly, this is the section for today. Or we can go back to this next time. Okay, so in any case, page 14, the first highlighted section that you see is from Van Gogh's painting, right? We cannot even tell where these shoes are, right?